Welcome to Avigna classes. Today we are going to discuss previous year question solutions from Civil Service Examination 2019. Right now we are focusing on the question on reinforced cement concrete. This presented by me, Harsh Mahajan, research scholar at IIT Bombay. So what we are going to see? We are going to see and understand the level of problem in civil subject in UPSC Civil Service Examination. We will solve the problem and understand the basic theory behind it. So why we are going to do this thing? First, previous year question actually helps you to define the syllabus. The syllabus is vast and it is very ambiguous in the notification. You will not understand what amount of thing they are going to ask. That's why you will see what kind of question they have asked in the previous examination. Second, these questions may be repeated or repeated in some form in your next examinations, not only conducted by UPSC but any other examination. Third, you understand this thing that UPSC conducts 3 examinations every year in which civil is a subject. First is conventional paper for engineering service examination, optional subject for civil service examination optional, and third optional subject for Indian Forest Service examination. So if you try to do all these 3 examinations question for last 10 years, then you can imagine what amount of question bank you will get. And if you solve this kind of question, your knowledge base will be wide rather than deep. So this kind of competitive examination always wants your knowledge base should be wide rather than having a research inclination toward a particular topic. So let us start with our first question. Problem number 1. Reinforced concrete beam of rectangular section 300 by 500 mm is given with the area of steel in detention zone 4 bar of 16 mm diameter, having effective cover of 40 mm. Beam is loaded with a factored load including the self weight. So 30 kN per meter is our factored load. So don't have to factor it and you don't have to add the self weight of the beam. Now what they required? They required to design the vertical shear reinforcement for the beam at the critical section for shear. So the grade of concrete is M25 and grade of steel is 415, and the following data is given here. So this is data from Indian Standard 456. So this is our beam. This is the loading of 30 kN per meter. UDL is given. 500 by 300 mm cross section is given here. These are all the parameters given in the question. I have written like that. Here effective depth of the beam will be 500 minus effective cover 460 mm. So how we are going to tackle this problem? So first of all we will try to calculate shear force at the critical section using shear force diagram. Then we will find the shear stress value which is equals to Vu by Bd. We will compare it by tau c max. If tau v is less than tau c max, then we will proceed. If it is not, then we will suggest for redesigning. Then next we will compute tau c based on FCK and AST. We will compare tau v by tau c. If tau v is less than tau c, then we have to provide minimum shear reinforcement only. If tau v is greater than tau c, we will design shear reinforcement. Here are the both formulas for minimum reinforcement, for shear reinforcement. Then we will provide minimum shear reinforcement at the other section and we will check for maximum specific. Now in our question they only required vertical shear reinforcement on the critical section. That means you don't have to provide minimum shear reinforcement in the other section. You just have to calculate design shear reinforcement for critical section. We will find shear force at the critical section by using shear force diagram. First of all, let's brush it up the basics of the SFD. So we are going to calculate reaction at B by taking the summation of the moment at A equals to 0. That means equating anti-clockwise and clockwise moment. So RB into 10, which will be equals to 30 into 14 square divided by 2. That means moment due to UDL. This will give RB equals to 294 kilonewton. And for RA, we will take summation of all vertical load to be 0. So RA plus RB will be equals to 30 into 14 means the total load. So RA will be 126 kilonewton. Now let us start drawing it. So at this end, shear force will be 0. It will increase linearly because UDL is given, that's why the change will be linear, and the equation will be 30 into x. So at B, it will be 120 kilonewton, which is going to be counteracted by our reaction force. So we will get 174 kilonewton negative shear force here. Then again we will go ahead. Here also the variation will be linear, and the V will be downward force minus the reaction, remaining reaction, which is a counteracting. So 30x minus 174, it will cross the 0 at once, and it will go up till here where it will be 126. Again RA come 126 with counteract it, and it will come to the 0. So this is how you draw the shear force diagram. Here you can see the maximum shear force is 174. We require this much only. So our design shear force will be VU equals to 174 kilonewton. Design shear stress will be tau V equals to VU by BD, which is 174 into 1000 divided by B, which is 300 into effective depth 460. This comes to 1.26 Newton per mm square. For grade M25, tau C max is 3.1 Newton per mm square. So tau V is less than tau C max, hence no need to redesign the section. Our beam is safe in diagonal compression failure. Tau C, percentage of steel, we will calculate it first. AST by BD into 100. AST is, we have 4 bar of 16 mm dia. This is the total area divided by B into D into 100, which comes to 0.58%. So for percentage of steel 0.58 and grade M25, we can interpolate linearly the values given in that table. So for 0.5, it is given 0.49, and 0.75%, the value of tau C is 0.57. So we can linearly interpolate it. It is very easy. If you are not good with the linear interpolation, you have the confusion, you can directly do by seeing this graphical method. It's nothing, it's just a similar triangle. So let us assume this 0.49 is the 0 of my new triangle, and here is the difference, which is the height, and the base will be 0.75 minus 0.5, which is 0.25. This height will be 0.08. Now we want to find height here, which is our x. By the law of similar triangle, 0.08, that is height divided by total base 0.25, equals to x divided by 0.08, means this distance. From here you will find x, and then you will add 0.49 here. Finally you will get the answer 0.515 Newton per mm square. Here is the formula, and here is the graphical method. Have a look on it. Now designing the shear reinforcement. As we can see that our tau V is less than tau C, that means we have to design shear reinforcement. So for what amount of force we are going to design the vertical shear reinforcement? So for the remaining amount which is not going to be carried by the concrete, we are going to design it. So 17400, which is our shear stress, minus taken by concrete, which is tau c into b into d, 102930 Newton will be remaining shear stress, shear force that you have to take care of. Then we have our formula VUS equals to 0.87 Fy ASV d by SV. 0.87 ASV means the force into d by SV means the number. So we are going to find the spacing only. So right now I am assuming and providing two-legged 8 mm dia Fe415 steel bar as a shear reinforcement. So this is the shear reinforcement. Vertical means two leg. Two vertical leg means two-legged 8 mm dia steel bar. 102930 equals to 0.87 Fe means 415, and then the area 2 into area of bar cross sectional area into D, which is 460 divided by SV. Here our SV comes 162.13 mm. Now does our work has been done? No. We are considering spacing to be 160 mm center to center. Now check for minimum shear reinforcement. Indian Standard Code says that you have to provide minimum shear reinforcement. So for minimum shear reinforcement we have this formula. Yeah, just put the value and get the answer. SV will be less than 302.32. We are providing 160 mm. That means we are providing spacing much less than the minimum requirement. Hence it is okay. Now we will check for maximum spacing. So maximum spacing is the minimum of 0.75 D or 300 mm, which comes to 300 mm. Again we are providing 160 mm center to center. That means our final design will be, we are going to provide two-legged 8 mm diameter stirrup at the rate 160 mm center to center to take care of the shear force at the critical section. Okay. Now see this diagram. You have to draw it at the end of your question. These are the bar given. This is the clear cover of the 40 mm. This is the effective depth of the 460 mm. This is two-legged 8 mm dia bar at the rate of 160 mm center to center. Here you write like this, and you also have to provide this two hanger bar because you cannot provide the shear reinforcement without the hanger bar. So likewise, you know, detailing is very much important in the examinations also. Now jumping for the problem number 2. The cross section of a pre-stressed concrete beam of span 12 meter is shown in the figure. This is the cross section. Okay. The beam is carrying the superimposed load of 20 kN per meter. So this is superimposed load. That means you have to calculate the dead load. Now, pre-stressing force is transmitted by the tendon having 605 mm square area. So area of tendon is given. Subjected to initial pre-stress is 1100 Newton per mm square. That means pre-stressing stress is given. Now analyze the beam section at the center for the stress induced before and after the application of superimposed load. Allow 15% of the loss of pre-stress, and here they are giving you the actual axis of the neutral, location of the neutral axis, which is 393.5 from the bottom of the edge, and IXX means moment of inertia about the neutral axis is 13900 into 10 to the power 6 mm to the power 4. So here you just have to calculate the stresses at the top and the bottom of this beam section. One thing is very beautiful here, that you know the location of neutral axis and the moment of inertia at neutral axis. If not, then you have to consider this I section and you need to calculate all this thing. The solution. First of all, they have told for the middle or the center, means where the moment is maximum. Your superimposed moment will be maximum. Span is 12 meter, superimposed load is 20 kN per meter, area is given, initial pre-stress is given, pre-stress loss is given, location of neutral axis and moment of inertia is given. Here is the diagram. Take a time, pause the video and see the detailing. How you are going to analyze the beam. So what you mean by analyzing the beam section in the pre-stress beam. So we have to find a stress profile before and after the application of the superimposed load. What is the stress at the top and what is the stress at the bottom and the variation. So first of all, you have to calculate a initial pre-stressing force P in the tendon, area of cross section of the beam, position of neutral axis, I-axis at neutral axis, UDL due to dead load, maximum moment due to dead load and live load. First we will calculate this. Then there will be two cases, transfer stage and final stage. Transfer stage means before the application of imposing load. Here have to find F top and F bottom, means stress at the top and stress at the bottom. In case number 2, final stage means superimposed load is applied. Now again you have to find the same thing. What is the difference? There are two differences. First of all, here you will not consider the moment due to live load. So here no fourth term is given. But here you see the fourth term is given. Moment due to live load you will consider here. Okay. And the second thing, on the final stage you will consider the pre-stressing losses. Now we will discuss about the formula. First of all, P initial by area. Force by area means stress. So this is the direct axial stress which is going to be applied on the beam. Second, P initial into eccentricity into Y T by B means top and bottom divided by moment of inertia. So what is this? So P into eccentricity means the moment. So now axial forces is applied at some distance from the neutral axis, that's why it is generating the moment. Due to that moment some stress will come which is going by this formula, and by moment due to the dead load some stress will come going by this formula. Here also one term add for the live load. Now how you will get this formula? This is very simple. Stress upon Y is equals to moment upon inertia. Where you have you seen this formula? So again this is the bending stress formula. Very easy. Now M into Y divided by I. So what we are doing here, we are doing the same thing. M into Y divided by I. You are just considering it for top and bottom. Okay. Now what will be the nature of the stress? First of all, direct axial load. Its nature will be compressive and compressive, only compressive. Okay. So you are pushing the beam on both ends in an axial direction, so it will be in the compressive stress only. Now moment due to eccentricity, so at the top it will be in tension, at the bottom it will be compression. Okay. So let's see if it is a beam and if you are applying the load like this. Okay. They are applying the load like this. So what will happen? This is the compressive force. The compressive strength is directly compressive for both fiber, bottom and top. Now it will be deflect like this. Okay, like this. So what is happening at the bottom? It will be arch like this, which is the compression, and at the top it will be tension, which is due to the eccentricity of the load. Now when you apply dead load and live load, the response will be opposite. It will be like this. Now at the top you will find the compression and at the bottom you will find the tension. I am using one sign convention here, that is compressive is positive, which means tension is negative. Analyze the formula. P initial by area, which is compression, positive. Okay. Now eccentricity वाला जो moment है due to that the stress will be negative at the top, positive at the bottom, and for dead load positive at the top and negative at the bottom. Same for the live load. If you understand this formula, the thing is easy in the next slide. So these are the parameters which are given in your question. Area of cross section, very easy, divided into the three parts. 250 by 100 plus 500 into 100 plus 200 into 200. Total area of the cross section of the beam. Then initial pre-stressing force 1100 into 605. This is Newton per mm square into mm square means Newton. This is the force. And the final pre-stressing force means you need to deduct the losses, which is 15%. So 0.15 of the 1100, now you have to deduct it from the initial stress into area. So this is the final pre-stressing force. Now UDL due to dead load means density into area. Okay. So because we are going to work in the UDL form, kilonewton per meter, so you don't have to consider the length. So 24 into area, 24 kilonewton per meter cube into area in the meter square, you will get the value like this. So maximum moment will be WL square by 8 for UDL simply supported, very simple, WL square by 8. For maximum moment due to live load, 20 into L square by 8, 360 kilonewton meter. Eccentricity, which is the distance between the neutral axis of the section and the centroid of the tendon. So centroid is given 100 mm above the bottom fiber and neutral axis is given 393.5 above the bottom fiber. Deduct the 100 from the neutral axis distance and you will get the eccentricity. So this is eccentricity. Now we are going to find the stresses. Case number 1, at the transfer stage, no consideration for pre-stress loss and superimposing loading. Top and bottom, initial by area plus minus or minus plus, moment into y by I axis plus minus, moment due to dead load y by I axis. Top, this is the force we have calculated in the previous slide. This is the area minus force into eccentricity into y. So what is y? Distance of your top fiber from the neutral axis. So the total height of the section is 800 mm minus the location of neutral axis from the bottom fiber 393.5 mm. So this will be your y top divided by I axis given in the question plus moment due to dead load we have calculated in the previous slide into again y divided by I axis. 1.521 Newton per mm square is your stress at the top. Now stress at the bottom, nothing, just sign is changed. It comes to 9.909 Newton per mm square. Now case number 2, at the final stage. Now we will consider the P final, means we are considering the losses also, and second we are considering the moment also due to live load. Now we have calculated the final pre-stressing value divided by area of the cross section minus final pre-stressing into eccentricity into distance of upper fiber from the neutral axis divided by I axis plus dead load moment into YT divided by I axis plus live load 360, which is the moment, into Y divided by I axis. 12.041 Newton per mm square is your stress at the top fiber in the final stage, and at the bottom sign change and it will be minus 1.978 Newton per mm square. One thing we should note here, that the positive means compression. We have decided that positive means compression. So if the value is coming positive, that means it is a compressive stress. So at the final stage, the bottom fiber is in tension, 1.978. That means concrete will be cracked because concrete is very weak in the tension. So here is the stress profile. First of all, this is P by A. Second, we are getting by eccentricity. Third, we are getting by dead load. And here is the resultant stress profile. Compression to compression minus 5.21 to 1.52 to 9.99. Now at the final stage, this is due to compressive load, this is due to eccentricity, this is due to the dead load, this is due to live load, and final will be like this. Problem number 3. A column has an unsupported length of 3.4 meter effectively held in position at its bottom end and top end, both ends, but not restrained against the rotation. That means hinge at both ends. Now the cross section is given like this. You have to determine the safe axial load that the column can carry. So these are the details given in your question. So what will be the procedure? First of all, check for the short compressive member. Okay, so first of all you have to check whether the member is short or not, because all the formulas given in the Indian Standard Code is for the short compression member. If you are going for the long member, then you have to change it further. Second, we have to find the effective length of the column from the annexure E. Then we will check the minimum eccentricity. Then, as it is a circular column with the helical reinforcement, we have to check for the volume of helical reinforcement. Now, then we will go for design axial capacity, and finally we will find the safe axial load capacity. Here are the clauses given, and here you see for the conditions and what will be the effective length. For our purpose, held in position, not restrained in rotation, that means 1L means effective length is equals to the unsupported length only. For minimum eccentricity, from clause number 25.4, the maximum of L by 500 plus BOD by 30 or 20 mm, whichever the maximum, it should be less than 0.05 into B or D. So in our case, B is equals to D equals to diameter. Very easy. And then for the volume of helical reinforcement, clause number 39.4.1, that volume of helical reinforcement divided by volume of core, it should be greater than 0.36 of gross area divided by core area minus 1 into FCK by Fy. At final, we will find the ultimate load carrying capacity of the column. So it is a circular column, that's why we are increasing the capacity by multiplying 1.05 into 0.4 FCK into area of concrete plus 0.67 Fy area of steel in compression. Then this will be divided by 1.5 and we will find our safe axial load carrying capacity. Check for the short column, L effective by D. So 3400 divided by 400, 8.5 less than 12, column is short. Next, check for minimum eccentricity, maximum of 3400 divided by 500 plus 400 by 30 or 20 mm. That means 20.33 or 20 mm, which should be less than 25, which is 0.05 into 500. Hence, the expression given in the clause number 39.3 can be used. Now check for the volume of the helical reinforcement. Understand this thing. Volume of helical reinforcement means per unit length. First of all, you need to consider. Now, if it is a helical like this, so there may be like 1000 mm, then there will be number of rings. So how will you going to calculate the number of rings? Simple, by calculating this ratio 1000 divided by pitch. Pitch means center to center distance and we are considering unit length, that's why 1000 divided by pitch into. For volume, you have to have length into area. So here is the cross-sectional area where D is the diameter of the ring. So this is the cross-sectional area. Now you need to find the length. Length is nothing but the circumference of this helical ring, which is equals to pi into dh, diameter into pi. So from this you are going to calculate the length into number of this kind of rings into the area of the bar. So from question, 1000 divided by 45 into pi into 314, which is the diameter of this helical circle, into pi 6 square by 4. This comes to this value. Now volume of core, so pi into diameter of core divided by 4 into 1000. So which is equals to 400 means the diameter minus 2 into 40. Sorry, here it is wrong. It is 40, which is the cover. So this is the diameter square divided by 4 into 1000. It will be the volume of core. Now core area, again same formula, just avoid this 1000 because we are talking about area only. This much will be the area of the core, and the gross area. Gross area means the whole area including cover and all. So which is 400 square. Find this value, and in the next slide we will see how to use this value. So we have this formula, volume of helical reinforcement divided by volume of core. We have calculated those. It should be greater than 0.36 of the area of gross divided by area of core, gross area by core area, putting the value minus 1 into FCK by Fy. Now here what is happening, that it is coming 0.007, and which is obviously not greater than the 0.0122. What to do now? Whether we cannot use that formula or not. So here you can do one thing. First of all, in the analysis of the column, don't attempt this thing. This is only for your understanding, so that in the designing of the column you go by this method. First. Second, what you can do, you can say by solving this that the spacing or the pitch is given inappropriate in the design, but you find the design load carrying capacity, because they just want the load carrying capacity of the column. They don't ask you to check whether it is correct or not. Okay. And third, you can directly avoid this whole step and directly jump to this formula and put the value and get that answer and over it. So at last I am doing this thing. You will get this thing. Pu is equals to 1.05, okay, into 0.4 into 25, which is FCK, into area of concrete. Area of concrete will be cross-sectional area whole minus area of the reinforcement bar plus 0.67 into Fy into area of steel in the compression, which is 6 bar of 16 mm, area of steel into number of steel bar. Pu is equals to 1659 kilonewton. Now safe axial load that can be carried by the column is Pu by 1.5, which is equals to 1106 kilonewton. This will be your final answer. What happened in the examination under that pressure, you attain this thing. You are trying to attempt this thing, but eventually you are disappointed by the value you are getting, and you will think that, oh my god, I am doing it wrong. But this is not the case. You are right. Have the confidence in you. You are right, but it might be possible providing the questions they want you to confuse on this. So you just have to put one line here that the provision of the pitch is inappropriate and inadequate. But you finally find this design axial load and safe axial load capacity. So this is our problem number 3. Let us go for the next problem. Problem number 4. Design a floor slab for an interior roof slab with clear dimension of 8.5 meter by 3.5 meter for a building located in Delhi. Now the problem is, when you actually read this, oh, based in Delhi, what this means. Is it related to your question, or it is just an inappropriate discussion is going on, some location is given so that you will confuse? We will see. Now the slab is resting on 230 mm thick masonry wall. Superimposed load may be taken 5 kN per meter square. Grade is given same. The table for exposure and the cover is given. Then the span to depth ratios are given, and the modification factor due to the provision of the tension reinforcement is also given. See the solution. So first of all, 8.5 meter by 3.5 meter. So Lx is 8.5, Ly is 3.5, support thickness is 230 mm. Location is Delhi, live load is 5 kN per meter square. To tackle this problem, first check whether it is one way or two way. Then find the effective span for the slab. Estimate the depth based on the deflection criteria. Find the dead load, effective span, moment and shear. Now find the effective depth for the balanced section and compare it with your effective depth that you are giving. It should be under reinforced. Find the area of steel required for the under reinforced and the spacing of the steel. Check the deflection based on the actual reinforce you are providing. The slab is interior and located in Delhi. So if it is located in Delhi, then the condition or the exposure can be considered to be moderate. First of all, we will start with the assumption that our modification factor is 1.2. So our span by depth ratio, which is equals to 20 for simply supported, is now need to be multiplied by 1.2. Now the answer will be 24. So the depth that you need to be provided is 3500 divided by 24 means 145 mm. Hence, assuming overall depth to be 200 mm and diameter of reinforcement is 10 mm. Why I am considering overall depth 200 mm? Because if we are design it for lower thickness and if it is fail, then we have to repeat all the process. So here is the difference between the practical approach of designing a slab or designing for examination. In examination you don't want to fail it because you have to again repeat the whole procedure with the new thickness, and in the practical you have to always concern about the design efficiency and economy. So now our effective depth will be 200 minus clear cover of 30 minus 5, which is 10 by 2. Now we will getting the effective depth for 165 mm. Now span ratio. Now Ly effective will be minimum of 8.5 plus 0.23 or 8.5 plus 1.65, minimum of this. So I will get 8.665 as my Ly effective. Similarly Lx effective will be 3.665. Their ratio is coming to be greater than 2. That means it is a one-way slab, and as it is supported by fourth side, it will be spanning in the shorter direction. So our shorter direction will be our designing span. Now load. We will consider 100 mm span for designing our beam or slab. Now slab is now considered to be 100 mm with beam. So dead load will be 24 into thickness into 1, which is 1 meter, 4.8 kN per meter. Live load is given 5 kN per meter square into 1 meter, that is 5 kN per meter, and our factored load will be 14.7 kN per meter. Moment and shear at the center, load into factored load into effective span divided by 8. Factored load is 14.7, effective span is the shorter span, which is 3.665 square divided by 8, 24.6 at kilonewton meter, and similarly shear, which is WL by 2. Effective depth for the balance section. Now from annexure of Indian Standard Code, this is the formula, you have to mug it up. ME limiting is equals to 0.36 into FCK XU limiting by D into 1 minus 0.42 XU limiting by D into BD square. I am going to discuss the whole flexural designing of the beam and the slab in some next video in the future. So what I want my beam to resist, or at least my concrete of the beam to resist this amount of moment, which is 24.68, which is our factored moment. Now keeping this and now finding the depth which is required to attain the balance section. From this I am getting the depth for 84.59 mm and we are providing 165 mm. That means our section is adequate and it is under reinforced. Area of steel. So this formula is not from Indian Standard Code, but whatever the formula in the Indian Standard Code gives, it will generate a quadratic equation which is difficult to solve. So I will suggest you to go for this formula. Okay, so some value is missing, the mu value is missing here. So 0.5 into 25, which is FCK, divided by 415 Fy, 1 minus root 1 minus 4.6 into moment, here I am not writing it here, divided by 25 into 1000 into 165 square, which is our effective depth we are provided, into 1000 into 165. Our area of steel comes to 432.11 mm square. Spacing will be 1000 into area of one diameter bar, like one bar, divided by total area required in that 1000 span. So from here I am getting 181 mm center to center, 180 mm center to center, 10 mm diameter bar. Area of steel required will be 432.11 mm square. What we are providing? We are providing area of steel 1000 into area of 1 bar divided by spacing that we have provided, just close to 436.11 mm square. Percentage of steel provided is area of steel provided divided by cross section. So we have considered the width 1000 into depth 165. 0.264% is our percentage area reinforcement provided. Maximum spacing is for the main reinforcement bar in the slab. Maximum spacing should be minimum of 3 into depth or 300 mm. So 3 into depth is 495, means our spacing should be less than 300 mm, and we are providing it at 180 mm center to center. That means adequate, hence okay. Distribution bar. We provide distribution bar to check thermal cracks or loading in other span. So area of steel required for the distribution bar will be 0.12 into BD by 100, which comes to 260 mm square. Spacing again same, now providing 8 mm bar, so spacing is coming 232 mm center to center. It should not be greater than 450 mm. So we are providing main reinforcement bar 10 mm diameter, 180 mm center to center, and distribution bar 8 mm diameter, 230 mm center to center, with the thickness of the slab 200 mm. Overall depth is 200 mm. Check for the shear. Very simple. Calculate tau V, which is equals to shear force divided by area, which is 1000 into 165. For percentage of steel 0.265 and FCK of 25, tau C comes for 0.36 Newton per mm square, and for the thickness 180 mm, or say 180, no sorry, it's a 200 mm, it's approx 1.25. Now moreover our tau V is very less than tau C, hence we are safe in shear. Check for deflection. Now in the question the graph for modification factor is given. Now we are going to use it. So there is one formula, Fs is equals to 0.56 into Fy, area provided divided by area required. Area required divided by area provided. so it is coming 230.26. For percentage of steel, 0.264%. Modification factor from that graph is coming 1.6. That means what we are providing span by depth ratio is 22.22, which is much greater than 32. Means our slab is safe in deflection. One thing is missing here, which is the diagram that you need to provide. So in my next lecture I am going to take care of that thing also. Last question, problem number 5, retaining wall. The diagram. So this is the surcharge of 25 kilonewton per meter square. This is the soil condition. Phi is 40 degree and gamma is 17 kilonewton per meter cube. This is the retaining wall cross section. So we have to find the factor of safety against the sliding and overturning and maximum minimum vertical pressure below the base of the retaining wall. We will start with the finding the coefficient of active earth pressure, which is equals to 1 minus sin phi divided by 1 plus sin phi. We have the phi value 0.218 is our active earth pressure's coefficient. Now active earth pressure will be calculated by this. PA is equals to Ka into sigma z effective minus 2c into root Ka. Now c is 0 right now. We are only giving the phi and cohesion less soil is considered. No. At location z equals to 0, means at the top of the retaining wall, only surcharge is there. So surcharge will be multiplied by Ka, which will give the value 5.45 kilonewton per meter square. Now at z equals to 6 at the bottom, it will be K into Q, which is constant, plus K into gamma H, because soil is not having any the soil is not saturated. That's why pore water pressure will not be considered here. Only gamma H is considered. If the saturated soil is considered, then gamma set is also written there, but here only gamma, so that's why we are not considering it to saturated. No pore water pressure is considered here. 0.218 into Q plus 0.218 into gamma into H, 17 into 6. So this is the value of the pressure at the bottom of the retaining wall, and it is at the top of the retaining wall. Here is the diagram. So this is the constant pressure due to the surcharge, which is 5.45 kilonewton per meter square. And this triangle is the variation of the pressure due to soil, which is maximum at the bottom about 22.134 kilonewton per meter square, and the total will be 27 point something kilonewton per meter square that we have seen in the previous slide. Now we are considering 1 meter section of the wall, and we want to calculate moment at the toe. Here is the toe. What is happening? This soil and this surcharge is actually pushing this wall in this direction, and this weight of the wall, which is acting downward, is trying to resist it. So these are overturning forces and these are the resisting forces. So weight of wall will generate resisting force and active soil pressure will generate the overturning forces. Now we are going to calculate the force, the lever arm with respect to the toe and moment about the toe. Very easy. Just see. This is the wall. Considering W1 and W2, two weights are given. W1 is the weight of this triangle. 3.3 minus 1.2 will give you 2.1 meter, its base. So half into base into height into 1, which is volume, into 24, which is the density, give you the force of 151.2 kilonewton. Lever arm. The application of the load is at the centroid, and centroid is at about 2/3 of the base. So 2/3 of the 2.1 is 1.4. So this is your distance from of the centroid of this triangle from the toe. Then we are coming for moment. 151.2 into lever arm, 211.68 is your moment about to W2. W2 is the area of this whole cross section, which is rectangular. So 1.2 into 6 into 1 volume into density 24, 172.8. Lever arm, half of the width of the rectangle plus the remaining base. So 2.1 plus half of the 1.2. 2.7 will be the lever arm here, and it will be 172.8 into 2.7, 466.56. Summing this up, we will get the resisting moment. Summing this up, we will get the resisting force or vertical force. Now horizontal. P1, this value, this rectangular. So area of the pressure diagram will give you the force. So P1 is equals to 5.45 into 6. 6 is the height and 5.45 is the width. So area is giving you the force of 32.7. Z1, which is the load application, half of the height. So 0.5 of the 6, 3 meter is the net P1 pressure load is applying, the location of the load is applied, and the moment at about 2 will be 32.7 into 3, 98.1. P2, triangle, half into base into height is the area, and it will give you the force. Z1 will be 1/3 from the base, which is 1/3 into 6, which is 2 meter, and again you will find the moment. The total of P1 and P2 will give you the net horizontal force, and the total of the moment at the toe will give you the resisting moment or overturning moment, overturning moment. Factor of safety against sliding. So this is the simple formula here. So let me show you how it works. Okay, let's assume this is a block, and if you are applying the simple force, so from basic physics, how much amount of force is required to move this block is depend on the normal force of this block into the coefficient of friction between the wall and the floor. Similarly, W is the normal force or vertical force of the block, which is our retaining wall, into the friction is divided by the overturning force, which is horizontal force, and their ratio is going to give you the factor of safety. Ideally it should be greater than 1, so it is coming 1.634. Similarly, for overturning moment, sum of resisting moment divided by sum of overturning moment, its ratio will give you the factor of safety against the overturning. It is 2.93. all the value we have seen in our previous slide. Maximum and minimum vertical pressure at the base. Eccentricity of the resultant E is equals to B by 2 minus net moment at toe divided by vertical force. We have calculated all the parameters in the last slide. We have to just keep it here. Base is 3.3 divided by 2 minus 678, which is our resisting moment, minus 230.9 overturning moment divided by total vertical force. 0.269 meter is our eccentricity. P max and P minimum, summation of vertical forces divided by B, bracket 1 plus minus 6 into eccentricity divided by B. Putting the value, we are getting P minimum and P maximum. Okay, so P maximum is 146 and P minimum is 50.16 kilonewton per meter square. So this is it. This is the whole all 5 problems. One problem is remaining here, which is water tank. Water tank I will take in the different class, because water tank is huge topic to start with. What we learned today. So problem number 1, we brush up shear force diagram and shear design in the reinforced concrete beam. Problem number 2, we have seen the pre-stress beam analysis and pre-stress loss and the cases, how to consider it. Problem number 3, analysis of column. We see how to calculate the axial load carrying capacity of a column. Problem number 4, we design a one-way slab. Problem number 5, we check the stability of the retaining wall. So by this 5 problem of 1 year, you have covered up huge amount of syllabus. Consider it, and if you try to solve previous 10-year question paper, that how much amount of the question you will going to learn, you can imagine it. Thank you for attending this lecture. Please subscribe and please like and share and comment your view about this lecture. Thank you.